dawn in that
Rotus
respect.
online.
Oh, we're online. Okay, let's start
Morning,
this
everyone.
private conversation.
Morning, everyone, and welcome to the Business Express show here on Smooth Breakfast.
I was just giving Ayo
Here's
props.
98.1. Love music, love life. Thanks very much for tuning in. It's 6:31 a.m. and time for Business Express 981. I'm here with Rotus. Good morning, Rotus. How are you today?
Fine, thank you. Good morning, Ayo. Good to be with you. Good to be with Lagos. Good morning, everybody out there.
Excellent. I'm loving the Smooth 98.1 FM t-shirt. And I think I haven't spoken to you since the last time you had the giveaway, and I was the one who was on air. So I want to say thank you. The joy on the people's faces, and I've seen a few of them put their, or one of them put their shirt picture as their DP on WhatsApp. So it shows just how much people loved it. So thank you very much.
Exactly, and we still have a few. There's still a few more that need to be collected. So if you haven't, if you're one of those folks, do reach out. I think we'll do every Friday if it's possible for folks to come by and pick it up, take pictures and so on. So fun stuff.
Excellent, fun stuff. All right, thank you. Now let's get to serious business, shall we? So today's conversation we'll be having in a few minutes. So before then, let me tell you how you can be a part of the conversation. You can simply send your message to WhatsApp 0809 444 0981, and then we're streaming live on YouTube, so head on to YouTube if you want to see Rotus's shirt and obviously contribute to the conversation today. Search for Smooth 981 FM Lagos on YouTube and be a part of the conversation. So today, Rotus, our headline topic and amidst others is around how much money the federal government is set to lose with regards to this VAT ruling by starting off in Port Harcourt. So please break this down for us.
Yeah, so back in August, on August 10th, a federal high court in Port Harcourt ruled that the federal government should not be collecting VAT on behalf of the states and said that Port Harcourt should be allowed to collect its own VAT. And the FIRS, the Federal Inland Revenue Service, then filed an appeal and tried to get a stay of execution on the ruling, saying that let's hold on for a second. We are the ones that are empowered to collect VAT, and they tried to get a stay of execution. Just yesterday, that stay of execution was struck down by federal in Port Harcourt. So other states now are pushing. Lagos State just had a second reading of a bill yesterday, not only on open grazing. I won't touch open grazing, that's a freshly pressed thing, but open grazing, collection of VAT. Federal Lagos State government is pushing to collect its own VAT. And I hear that there's another southwestern state that is soon going to make an announcement. They are consulting with their legal teams in order for them to be able to collect VAT as well. So this is massive. The FIRS at the Joint Senate Committee on the 2022 to 2024 Medium-Term Expenditure Framework and Fiscal Paper, which is the structure for budgeting going forward in the years, they expressed worries about what's going on with respect to VAT, because the FIRS could lose as much as 2.4 trillion naira in 2022. That's how much they are projecting to collect, which is kind of a bit higher than what was generated in 2020. I think we generated about 1.5 trillion naira total in VAT. 495 or 494 is Q1 2021, what was generated in VAT, about 52% higher than the first quarter of last year. So there's a lot of money in VAT. Value added tax, the federal government gets about 15%, states get about 50%, the local governments get about 35%. So 85% goes to states and local governments, while 15% goes to the federal government. So the issue is here, in terms of what true fiscal federalism should be about. Who should be collecting VAT on behalf of the state? Should the states be collecting their own VAT, which is due to them, or should the federal government be collecting it? That's what is at stake here. Yeah. And I'm guessing that this is going to go all the way to the Supreme Court, and that the FIRS will appeal. But it could, blow the gates wide open if what's happening, because Lagos State is aggressively, Lagos State, I think majority of the VAT that's generated comes from Lagos. So Lagos State, of course, says that, look, if we can, generate VAT, keep revenue for ourselves, the implications would be, quite big when you think about internally generated revenue for a number of the states. So it's a big case.
Yeah. Right. Now, yesterday we had talked about, during Freshly Pressed, one of the stories was the shortfall of in 6 months of the revenue projection by the federal government. And now we're looking at a further revenue cut if this obviously goes through, in terms of taxes not being obvious. They will still get their company taxes and so on, but over ₦1 trillion in losses in terms of taxes. What would be the implication for the federal government? I mean, I know they're going to fight this, like you mentioned. How is it going to affect the federal government?
Well, they'll be losing out on money. So that the basic thing that the federal government is going to be losing out on money that it desperately needs in order to fund its budget, in order to capital expenditure. I think we should be hitting the Eurobond market soon. We're looking to get like $3 billion from the Eurobonds. So I'm borrowing more and more and more because we've got a budget deficit, which is the difference between the expect to make and then the expenditure and so on and so forth. So if you take out VAT, that's an issue. Plus, look, remember that Nigeria has a large informal sector. There are a lot of businesses that are not registered formally. And so, they are carrying out businesses informally. They are not taxed. And so the federal government has been doing what it can to try to bring them into the tax bracket, into the tax net, so they can collect more revenue from them. So you can imagine year on year, if the government is succeeding in getting more people into the tax bracket, you're looking at, getting more value-added tax and so on and so forth. And so if the states now are able to hold on to that money for themselves, that's a revenue loss for the government. But, on the other side of the coin, it's more money going to the states. I mean, the federal government has facilities, budget support facilities for the states. The states were hit hard by the last 2 recessions. Some of them are supported, some of them rely on the FAC allocations from the government. So on the flip side, if the government would lose money, but it's not as if the money is disappearing into thin air. The money is going to the states. And I am all for independent states that can set their own tax rates, break away from the federal government, have their protection, jurisdiction over their own mineral resources. Let's have competitive states. Lagos State cannot be, the only competitive states where companies are basing their headquarters and where everything happens. I mean, I know Lagos State is competitively located, the ports, the commercial activities and so on and so forth. But we need more competitive states. I mean, you and I need to be having conversations about going elsewhere to another state to move to go and make a living for yourself.
I would say, if you're talking about ports, I would look at Akwa Ibom, for instance. I mean, Akwa Ibom has invested heavily in that. I'm looking at that state in the next few years and being able to, maybe even if they're not able to compete at the same level of Lagos State, but at least able to break out. So they have oil, they have a seaport, which they're investing in. And so it's something, like you mentioned, to look into. We have states that are not viable, even though they're calling for the creation of more states. But like you mentioned, a number of people are echoing your thoughts in the comment section. So let me go to the comment and read what some people have shared. Benga Akamu says, we hope the court will continue to insist that the states collect VAT, especially when some states are destroying businesses but want to continue enjoying the benefits of VAT from other states. And then we have Ugo saying, income sources for states are so few. And when we consider the religious angle where VAT on alcohol is still a huge debate, I feel this is good for the states to collect VAT. Federal government should let VAT go and improve its tax collection from the existing bracket, like what that's what he said. And this is Ugo Collins speaking. And then Prince says, on the VAT issue, in fact, the federal government may in fact be better off, given that the FCT generates the second highest VAT at Lagos, in addition to import and non-import foreign VAT. 30 states will be the loser. I don't see how federal government will be the loser. What do you think of this? This is a different perspective from what you've shared and others have said.
Yeah, well, I don't see how the states, well, okay, so I think he's talking about, if you look at it from the angle of other states that don't generate that much VAT, being collect from the pool, then if you're a less viable state, then, okay, so like the alcohol thing, Benga Kanu is referring to states. Kano destroyed 200 million naira worth of alcohol last year, but the system that is practiced right now is everybody shares from a pot. Now, if you destroy that or you take away that, then everybody gets what you generate is what you keep for yourself. So states who don't generate that much, who are depending on what they get from the pool, in that respect, Prince is correct. But if you look at a Lagos state or FCT, Rivers, they will be better off. The thing is, though, this is meant to make states more competitive.
Yes.
Force the states to, pull up, pick themselves up, tie up their shoelaces, tighten their shoelaces, and go out, make your own, increase your collections and do better for yourself. But yeah, that whole state creation thing you've mentioned, that is just, oh gosh.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ugo from Surulere says, I like the thought of states being, it's just the challenges that sometimes, yes, we have governors there, but the people are the ones who suffer. So you suffer for 4 years if your governor is not creative enough to look for ways to increase the tax bracket or to generate income for your state. So I can understand where Prince is coming from. He says,
and what it will make governors sit up. You can't be running to Abuja every
they'll be running to Lagos and Port Harcourt.
You stay in your state and be innovative. See, that one need to put fire under their backsides, because if you're in a state that's not doing very well, your governor now has to sit up and find. He has to go overseas and get in more investments into his state. Do the work. Do the work. Put your own work and prop up your state's finances. That's the implication.
It sounds great on paper. At least you and I know the kind of governors that we have. And I don't know if they would take on. I think the people might have to bear the brunt of it for a while. But I do totally. I'm with you on this one. All right. So Ugo from Surulere says, "Good morning, Rotus and I. The federal government should embrace true federalism. These are tough times, and those destroying alcohol, the people are coming for them. I think almost every state has those who are destroying alcohol in those regions should bear the brunt of not being innovative with tax generation. Sharing of Commonwealth at the center should stop." Wow, we have tons of messages. Okoro says the ruling is a selfish one for the major states, Ogun, Lagos, Rivers, Abuja. The businesses in these states service the nation in some cases. It's essentially more money to waste for the states. He says in an ideal world, it wouldn't be losing any money because the state would still remit the 15% to the federal government, except there has been some issues with transparency, or the real issue, which is that some states can't generate money and depend on others like Lagos and Rivers. Anthony Ogunkelu says we should not just look at the short-run impact of states collecting VAT. It will lead to competitive states, and most states will now make their states conducive for business, which is what you said.
Right.
So it'll be, you're trying to attract, so each state would come up with policies to enable businesses to thrive.
Exactly.
Benga Kamu's back says, we hope there won't be disparate court rulings from different courts in Nigeria on this issue, since the CJ has warned judges to stop issuing indiscriminate ex parte orders. This is about to get interesting. That crossed my mind as well. This meeting with the CJN is going to be making a lot of sense. Delewad says, some states are already becoming competitive in terms of industries. Lagos is already becoming a transit state for a state like Ogun, where most companies are setting up their industries. Tax burden in Lagos is already a hellish situation. Princess Back says in 2020, total VAT collection was 1.53 trillion naira, with import VAT comprising 348 billion naira. Foreign non-import VAT was 420 billion naira, and local VAT was 763 billion naira. He says with the new ruling, Abuja is likely to retain more than the 15% it currently receives, while states and LGAs will have less to share, particularly VAT on federal contracts, which is currently included in local VAT, is excised, as that will now solely inure to the federal government.
Local governments. I don't want to. We have run out of time. I don't want to get into local governments. I don't want to get into local. Thanks for all great messages.
Come and tell us how the local governments can make money and be and be able to run on their own, or at least to a large extent. Thank you very much indeed, as always. Great conversation. And thanks to all our listeners. Great insights on this conversation as well. We're going to be discussing touching on this during Freshly Pressed, as well as the grazing bill that Rotus mentioned earlier on. Do stay tuned here on Smooth 98.1. Thanks everyone.